Namaste. I'm happy to be part of this book release function, and I am really delighted to know that Fearless Governance by Kiran Bedi is being released tomorrow. The book is about the miracle of teamwork, collaboration, about how public money is prioritized and how the Aam Aadmi assumes center stage. It is about exercising responsibility for the present and the future. And when it comes from the pen of a person like Kiran Bedi, you can expect the very best. So I sincerely pray that the book is circulated widely and it is especially in the hands of our youth force so that they can imbibe these very inspiring ideas. The author is very well known to all of us. So indeed the book is welcome in all intellectual circles. I invoke the blessings of the Almighty on this auspicious occasion when such great ideas are being given to us. The prayer which came to my mind, the Vedic prayer, is obviously this one because the author of this book embodies these virtues. So I just remembered the Vedic hymn, Tejosi Tejo Mai Dehi, Viryamasi Viryam Mai Dehi, Balamasi Balam Mai Dehi, Ojosi Ojo Mai Dehi, Manyurasi Manyu Mai Dehi, Sahosi Saho Mai Dehi. The prayer is to the Supreme Lord. It says, "You are the embodiment of infinite brilliance. Grant me brilliance. You are the embodiment of infinite vigor. Grant me vigor. You are the embodiment of infinite strength. Grant me strength. You are the embodiment of the infinite spiritual energy in every being. Grant me the spiritual energy. You are the embodiment of courage. Grant me courage. You are the embodiment of infinite patience. Grant me patience." With this prayer, I invoke the blessings of the Almighty on this book. May it benefit millions. Jai Hind.
Good evening and namaste. I welcome you all to this evening's program, beginning with these divine prayers to the Almighty and the special blessings from Mataji Pravrajika Divyananda Prana. I think we are most blessed to be beginning this evening's program on this note. And I welcome you all to this evening's program. It's a very important day for us, which is the release of this book, Fearless Governance, and it's been a journey for ma'am and for all of us who've been part of this book, and it's the culmination of 6 years of hard work that's gone into this book. So I once again extend a very warm welcome to all our audience joining us live on all the various platforms and on ma'am's website. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope you really enjoy the program we've put together as part of this book release, which is going to be very, very inspiring. And today's program hosts are our publishers, Diamond Publishers. We are already joined by Ankur Verma of Diamond. And I also extend a warm welcome to Mr. Devaniti Das, who's been the former secretary to the Lieutenant Governor. And to tell you in brief about today's program, we will first begin with the journey of the book. Then we will show you a video of how this book was actually made, following which I will tell you about the role our interns have played, and we will show you a clip about how the interns learned from ma'am and what they learned from ma'am. And then we will be joined by our two legends, Mrs. Indra Nooyi, the former chairman and CEO of PepsiCo, and Professor Debashis Chatterjee, who's the director of IIM Kozhikode. They will formally release the book and share their thoughts with us. And once they are done, then we will have Mr. Nitida. I will be introducing Mr. Devaniti Das, and he will be sharing his thoughts. And after which, we will be having our own author, Dr. Kiran Bedi, sharing her thoughts with us. And then we will formally show you the entire team who have gone behind making this book. Mrs. Saina Barucha will recognize all the entire team which has gone behind making this book. So this is how we will take forward this evening's proceedings. And coming to the making of the book, let me tell you, it's been a journey of a visionary who knew she was going to write this book and started documenting right at the beginning of her tenure. Every newspaper clip was documented, every tweet was documented, every blog was documented, photographs, videos, you name it, and it was meticulously documented. And it was a huge team working behind this, at Rajnivas, and everybody pitched in. It was not just, a creative team pitching in, or the offices pitching. It was everybody. If you had to see ma'am's office, even the household staff, their children would come and help us. It was a colossal teamwork that's gone behind the making of this book, and slowly, which emerged into a key book team in Delhi, which eventually put together. So we will show you a nice video that we have made on the making of this book. Can we have that clip, please?
The first step towards that was the documentation room in the Rajnivas itself. And I had taken a me called Pooja, and she was interested with this work of now retaining whatever comes. So in the documentation, whether it was a Twitter handle, whether it was a morning nutrition, whether it was a blog, whether it was a WhatsApp message, whether it was a presentation, whether it was the minutes of the meeting, whether it was a news clip, all this was now being kept in different folders. So Pooja started to maintain this along with another intern who later on joined her, was Isha Arora. So this was a small residential team of Rajnivas Documentation Center. This led to further publications through a team which got a little expanded, and we went on to publication. So Amrita, and then the Rayful was a designer, Asha Gupta was the coordinator, who was the controller of Rajnivas. So it was like a team making photographs of baked by Manika Nandan. Videography was done by Vijay and his wife Poo. So all this small team, it was different people, but all coming together as a documentation. On the PRO side, we were getting the news clips every day, and so we were filing them in documentation. By the year end, we issued a news track document which had the news clips of all the highlights of the news clips of the year. So we had a full newspaper document. So all this small team, it was different people, but all coming together as a documentation. It was visual, it was print, it was file maintenance, etc. None of us were trained in documentation, but each one knew what to do and to preserve. Almost started to nurse that one day a book will have to be written. This becoming a basis of the book was shaping. Everybody, and I started to actually tell my team, hey, one day you're going to see a book, which you see today. You will see a book, you'll see a book. It was actually reminding my own self, and I was challenging my own self. And also probably even challenging my colleagues that, mind you, you will be part of the book. And these girls learning to be upgrading. And then social media was a big thing. My Twitter handle, my Facebook, the Instagram, all these were being picked up. The LinkedIn, we were using and sharing these things on the. So internship, spreading out all the news clips, the documents. How do we chapterize? So a format of the contents in the book start to take shape, and I was still conflicting. How do I write the book? Do I go chronologically? Do I go challenge-wise? It was all a conflict. It was all a discussion within my own head. But we started to do the spade work. So we spread out on the dining room, we spread it out on the floor. And then that was how it was getting compiled. From that Rajnivas compilation, for drafts were written, redrafts were written, drafting. Because every time I started to write, and I needed time, continuity of time to reproduce that chapter. What was happening on sanitation, on walking the rounds, the open house, whatever news was coming of our conflict with the political establishment. Publication was a very important documentation. Then came time to come back to Delhi, come back home, and the setting up a documentation room in Delhi. So you see a documentation room in Delhi. All these, one room is full of original documents of all the files, the e-files, etc. So all this was set up. The whole library was with me. I was self-sufficient. So now came a stage when, how do I chapterize? That's another story of how we start to chapterize. Any number of times we corrected. Then I converted my own living room again into an assembly line. So Pooja and Rinki, and also took the help of Preeti to start me on the computer. So you see how it was a beginning of the documentation. Now we had the documents. How do I start writing? We started a residential office of Pooja, Rinki, and I initially took help of Preeti when Pooja was also in quarantines, etc. But Preeti came and we started the computer. And then we also had technology support from the India Vision Foundation, my own foundation at the basement, and a young man called Sumit. He was very good in hardware work. So he started to help me out with starting my folders and etc., which we kept shuffling, of course. But we spread out the pages into our bedroom, into our living room, and you'll see visuals of these, and then start to categorize them, and then start to document them, which is the category we have, then spread out to retain. So this is how the chapter began. We kept working and working, titled From Workship in Governance to Fearless Governance. So she brought in the title, Pooja and Rinki kept working on the computer, Sumit kept helping me on my IT, support system from below provided us all the wherewithal, and all the logistics came from the India Vision Foundation, and to do the Kindle work. So he was typing Kindle, Rakesh was doing the InDesign, while Pooja and Rinki were feeding all the information required, sitting and designing. Aditi and I were continuing to read and speak and consult and rephrase, taking the help of Grammarly, and Aditi would take the book along and read overnight. Imagine what a huge issue it was, but how everybody worked it out, from lemon, which we were going earlier as a lemon color, to soft lemon, to maroon red, bright maroon, full of color and gaiety, called Prosperous Puducherry. This is the making of the book. The book was amazingly, I think if I had not come back now, the book could not have been written so soon. Second, if it wasn't COVID and I was isolated for almost 9 months, it would not have been written so much faster. 3, undisturbed time and focused on 9 months, and I was pretty healthy, keeping good health, and a very good support system at home. That's why I've thanked home support system as well. No noise, nothing, and was just the 3 of us in the room working 12 hours a day. Last 8 months clearly, 8 to 9 months clearly, we have done the book. And now today it's into print. Enjoy reading as much as we enjoyed writing. Bye.
Yippee! Yippee!
So doesn't that video tell you how much your work has gone into making of this book? And I have personally been a part of it, both at Rajnivas, Puducherry, and back in Delhi with ma'am, when I made 2 visits and I worked with her. I mean, I can tell you, we wrote, we rewrote, we tore papers, we lost files. Everything happened in the making of this book. Because none of us are so technologically savvy, the files kept going missing. You know, and there was a stage when I was telling ma'am, aap likho, and you just copy paste it into the email and mail it to me. So it stays, even from emails, it won't get lost. At least one of us will have a copy. You know, we'd reached that stage. And then thanks to Sumit, we've had help. And, you know, the whole team really worked. And I keep saying it's like the pieces of this jigsaw puzzle that each one pitched in their own part to make this book happen. So it's a big thank you to this book team, and I think it's a dream come true for us today to see this book being launched. And personally, I've seen work going on for 6 years for this book. It's not just in the 8, 9 months. So, and another integral part of our team, of our work in Rajnivas, were our interns. we had young students coming and interning at the office of the Lieutenant Governor. Ma'am always believes that the government offices should be open for students to intern, to learn and see how work goes on, how bureaucracy works. But she led by example and opened up Rajnivas to interns. All through her tenure, at different points of times, we had interns coming in, including an extended summer internship when the code of conduct was in place in the summer of 2019. So we've at least maybe close to 100 interns may have come to Rajnivas, and they were all guided very well during their internships, led by Mrs. Asha Gupta, the controller, who made sure they did their assignments properly, went out in the field, did their social work, everything, and only then went out of Rajnivas with their certificate signed by Dr. Kiran Bedi, which is, I think, the most valuable asset any student would want, to have an internship like this. So our interns also wanted to express their gratitude to ma'am on this momentous day, and they have sent us little clips of what they learned during their internship. So we will show you a clip on that. Could we have that clip, please, of our interns?
Instilling the spirit of public service, leadership, importance of gratitude, and integrity are just some of the values which I carry from the halls of Ma'am's office, and it has always been a part of my growth ever since. Some instances which I hold very strongly in my mind from Puducherry are Ma'am speaking at lengths to administrators on the value of using what you already have instead of aspiring for what you don't. Her priority for addressing children and young people, and the value Ma'am attached to discipline. And most importantly, I carry in my heart the moment she told me to not give up and not be satisfied with the ordinary. All these left a very deep impression on my mind and have consistently shaped me.
I have learned to live every single day to the maximum potential, and for all this and 1,000 other reasons and 1,000 other lessons that I've learned from Dr. Kiran Bedi ma'am, I will forever be grateful for her.
As somebody who studies global public policy, I was inspired to see participatory governance and leadership in action at Dr. Kiran Bedi's office. And it wasn't just her, she motivated her entire team to be accessible to the people and really made governance for the people and by the people.
With Team Rajnivas during the open house, I was always awestruck by the adaptation of management principles and solving the grievances by teamwork. Seeing the happiness in people's face made me to believe wherever it may be, accessible governance leads to acceptance by the people, and acceptance leads to celebration by the people.
As an intern, I could choose to go cycling or walking with the Honorable Lieutenant Governor in the evenings and have a very, very inspiring conversation with her. And this opportunity is something that I haven't got anywhere else. This bond and relationship that she creates with youngsters is something that makes an impact in our lives, and it lets us or it reminds us when there are difficult times at our work, and it keeps inspiring us to do more.
While doing my research at the grievances redressal system of Rajnivas, I was able to witness fearless governance. I know how the first office of such a significant department was created only after the leadership of Dr. Kiran Bedi ma'am. I have read about all the successful stories of the open houses. I have witnessed the open houses, and I am forever grateful for such an experience. Thank you.
Two of the qualities which I take away from here is that I've improved on my communication skill, I've built up on my confidence, I've learned to help more, work more, and learn more. I've learned the importance of teamwork. In a team, you require trust, empowerment, and accountability. And I could realize that under the guidance and leadership of our Lieutenant Governor, Team Rajnivas is not just a team, it's a family. It's People's Nivas, and most of all, we have a People's Governor. The success stories of Open House and the Puducherry of model of governance will always be etched in our history and will act as a role model for every government. The Mission Green Puducherry, Water Rich Puducherry, Prosperous Puducherry under our in the initiative of our Lieutenant Governor has not just made Puducherry prosperous, it's made Puducherry joyful and it's made Puducherry happy.
Now, doesn't that video show you how internships have impacted the students, how much they have learned, and how these learnings will stay with them throughout their lives? You know, for ma'am, it maybe have just been one student, you know, somewhere around Rajnivas interning, but for that student, that experience meant the world. And they've gone back with such deep lessons, deep impact on their lives that it's helping them wherever they are today. Most of them are still studying, some have started working, but ma'am's teachings have stayed with them. And if I have to tell you about this book, the one quote in this book that stayed with me is the leadership that infuses energy into the team empowers them to accomplish the most. And I must tell you, this book, Fearless Governance, is an embodiment of teamwork, absolute teamwork. What I have seen personally in Rajnivas as part of ma'am's team, I saw her totally empower teamwork. She never wanted us to work in the silos, always in the team and encouraging everybody in the team, ensuring everybody gets credit for what they do. And she always told me that it is about teamwork. We have to be fair, we have to give credit. And the more you give, the more you get. That's what I have learned from ma'am, seeing, you know, her essence of teamwork always in Rajnivas. And in fact, our Rajnivas team was headed by Niti Das sir, and he's very much here with us today. And I have personally always gone to him for help whenever I was working on any documentation in Rajnivas. So, and the other quality that one can imbibe from this book is how empathy cuts across all barriers. It's ma'am's empathy that, you know, really helped her govern there. I used to watch that. The open house, when people used to come, they knew ma'am doesn't know Tamil, she doesn't understand, she has an interpreter with her, but they knew here is a leader who's there to help, which is why they came. Or if I saw ma'am on cycling rounds and where she would stop and meet the Swachhta workers and go hug them. And you could see that in their eyes that they really understand ma'am's love and kindness and empathy. And that's what really, helped, or rather was the hallmark of her governance. I could just go on and on with this book. I think each one of us must read this book and, you know, pick up whatever inspires you. There are lessons. It's a complete, manual of governance. You'll pick up lessons for various things, and it's not just for government, but even in the private sector, I think people can learn from this book. In fact, when I wrote the book 2 years ago, also I told ma'am, it's your kindness which governs. And the word fearless has always been associated with ma'am. Even now, when you do a Google search and say fearless, I think the first name that turns up is Dr. Kiran Bedi. And when we got the name of this book as Fearless Governance, I think it just fitted so appropriately for ma'am. So I think it's very, very special today that we're releasing this book, and we're just waiting for our special guests, the legends, to join us. In fact, I think Professor Debashis is, yeah, I think Indra Nooyi ma'am has also joined. I can see her back end. So I think it's the biggest dream come true. It's moment of goosebumps for us to have Indra Nooyi ma'am and Professor Debashis Chatterjee joining us. I think as soon as they're on the camera, we'll have them on.
Beautiful.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good morning to you. 6 a.m. in the morning for you.
Anything for Kiran. Anything for Kiran.
That's a you to say, ma'am. Thank you. It's such an honor.
And it's wonderful to see Teva Niti Das on the line. I read about you in the book, and thank you for your service. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indra. We are absolutely honored to have you.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Good morning, Ankur. How are you?
Ankur ji, you're on mute.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're the publisher of the book, I take it?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful job.
I think this is the moment we've all waited for.
Well, do you want me to say a few words now, or you want me to wait till Debashis joins us too?
Yes, I think he's just joining us, ma'am, and then we'll.
I'll let him go first so that I can hear him.
He has to go first before Debashis Chatterjee any day.
No.
Professor
Debashis, you're the educator. Very nice to meet you. You're the educator. I was taught always to let the educator go first.
To icon, Indra, I heard you on stage with Kapil Sibal and you on stage, cramped with a CNN IBN. I don't know, CNN. Who was this gentleman who was doing this? And Kapil Sibal said to you that Indra, take my job and give me yours. And something very interesting when you're talking about governance and management, two gorillas that never seem to meet. But here, because of Kiranji's book, it's such a privilege to see both of you right in front of me. I feel really grateful. Here is my copy of the book. And I would like, we had the cover, but we made it into a book that only management guys can do. But I've only got the cover. But this is something that we are waiting for. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of India, I hear from a lot of my friends in West Bengal who worked in prisons and all inspired by Kiranji. They've all heard about this event and the book. And so this is such a great opportunity for us to be able to unveil it. And it's a moment where you recognize a life which can be frozen in print. Life is so dynamic, but it has been for the time being. And who else but Kiranji can produce something of this kind with visual evidence that this is not theory, this is hard nuts and bolts of leadership, and we're going to talk more on that. But right now, it's a pleasure and a privilege to hold this when on my screen, none other than Indra Nooyi is waiting to speak. So I would cut short my initial conversation and allow her to go ahead and do the honors. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Indra Nooyi ma'am and Professor Debashis for joining us. And I request our publisher, Ankur Verma of Diamond Books, to formally welcome both of you. And then we will also have the formal release of the book, after which Indra Nooyi ma'am will share her.
Sure.
Diamond Publication welcomes all of you and requests Mrs. Indra Nooyi and Professor Debashis Chatterjee to virtually release the book and the e-book, Fearless Governance, by Dr. Kiran Bedi, IPS retired, and the former LG of Punnacheri. Diamond Publication is extremely delighted and honored to welcome the iconic Mrs. Indra Nooyi, one of the most well-known corporate leader, most admired CEO, and role model for women across the globe, who was ranked number 1 in the Fortune magazine, Most Powerful Women in Business. With the strong Indian roots as she hails from the city of Chennai, she studied management at IIM and then at Yale before taking the plunge into the corporate world. She joined PepsiCo in 1994 with a sheer hard work, determination, and business acumen. She turned the company around and became its CEO in 2006 and chairman in 2007. She brought the concept of performance with purpose to put the environment, customer, and employee well being at par with financial goals. She was the first woman CEO of PepsiCo and one of the only 11 female chief executives for Fortune 500 company. She has consistently ranked in the Forbes magazine list world's 100 most powerful women. She was awarded the Padam Bhushan by Government of India in 2007 and was named CEO of the Year by the Global Supply Chain Leader Group. She has also received US State Department Award for Outstanding American by Choice. She has received 15 honorary degree and an honorary doctorate of Humane Letter from Yale University in 2009. Read her newly released memoir, My Life in Full, to know more about her. Diamond Publication is also extremely delighted and honored to welcome the most revered teacher of management and leadership at IIM, author and columnist, Professor Debashis Chatterjee. He is currently director of IIM Kozhikode, has been a professor and dean at IIM Lucknow and IIM Calcutta, is currently also the mentor and director of IIM Amritsar. A Fulbright scholar at Harvard University, He was also a visiting professor at Kennedy School of Management. He has been described as third leader of world by Professor John Kotler of Harvard Business School for his contribution to theory and practice of leadership. He has authored several books, including Leading Consciously, Timeless Leadership, to name a few. Professor Debashis Chatterjee has been leading IM Kozhikode to new heights. IM Kozhikode has been the sole IM to feature in IRA ranking and has ranked second in the most innovative education institute of national importance. We are indeed privileged to have both of you grace this book launch.
Wonderful. Great.
Thank you. So I think the book is formally released. Indra ma'am, would you like to speak first? We request you to share a few.
You're talking to me, Shivani?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments, Ankur. And here's my copy of the book, in my iPad. I don't know if you can see it, but I've been reading it again last night. And I must say, I've been absolutely enamored with the book. First of all, it's a very easy read. It's not a laborious book that sort of puts you to sleep. It's written in a language and a style that, sort of bullet points, and quickly you can skim through it. Every chapter has lessons, takeaways. I found it very, very engaging. Now, you might wonder why a business executive or a retired business executive should be interested in a book about politics and managing a union territory. Let me be honest, I looked at this book as an example of CEOship in action, leadership in action. And basically, what Kiran is saying is whether you run a company or whether you run a union territory or a state or a country, there are some universal principles. Work for the people, put them before you, be visible, make sure that you have accountability, make sure that you are resilient, make sure that you're honest. There's some universal principles that Kiran articulates throughout her entire book, notwithstanding a key message, which is be humble. Humility, sort of is a theme that goes through the whole book. I'll be honest with you. The thing that bothered me the most reading the book was, here is somebody who's come from a region that she's, far away from Puducherry, comes to Puducherry, wants to do the right thing for the people at a time when that union territory needs help. Yet the political establishment gave her so much grief. And I'm sitting there scratching my head going, why? I thought political leaders were there to serve the people. Rather, I found the opposite. Political leaders were there to pad their pockets, to in fact put as much barriers as they can in front of this incredible person who wanted to make a change and serve the people and make Puducherry a great union territory. And they were more interested in their patronage and getting her out of Puducherry rather than embracing her and saying, what can we learn from her? And I'll be honest with you, that's the part that had me up all night saying, what is wrong with our political system? And Debashis, as you head up IIM Kozhikode and all of the other IIMs, this is a topic you must study, because this book provides a beautiful blueprint of decentralized governance given to a very, very honest, ethical, caring leader can actually make a difference. And Kiran Bedi's book is an example of how it can work. I think the biggest question mark is, how do you make it stick? After somebody like Kiran Bedi leaves Puducherry, does everything she does or she started to do stick in Puducherry? I mean, and that report card is a little mixed because the political establishment takes over again. How do you find the honest leaders to surround a great leader whose heart is in making a difference? How do you make sure you reform the political system? How do you make sure the political system works for people who are struggling? I mean, some of the pictures that I saw, I had tears. The bathrooms, the classrooms, the hospitals, the dental clinic that you showed, Kiran. I cannot imagine that people can look at that and have a good night's sleep and not have their conscience evoked. I mean, I am in a state of shock after seeing some of those pictures. And this is not from 20 years ago. This is last year and the year before. I read about the COVID crisis and what you had to manage through. And I'm looking at the huge differences between the privileged class, not the wealthy class, the privileged political class, and the Aam Aadmi. And I'm saying, what is wrong with us? Do we not care about our own citizens? And so I am sincerely hoping that this book by Kiran is a call to action. It's a story of fearless governance. It's a blueprint for what political leaders can do if they put their minds to it. But if this book remains just a book, as opposed to, and a tribute to Kiran, as opposed to what do we do with this, the learnings from this book? How do we send research teams to Puducherry to see what stuck, what didn't? What do we need to do with the political system? How do we work with the central government to start reforming politics? I'm afraid that India, with all its potential, will be mired in politics. And I think that would be a dreadful, dreadful scorecard because in today's world, I think we've got to unleash the power of honest leaders and serve the people of India, not necessarily an established political class which does not seem to want to change. So, on the one hand, I want to compliment Kiran for her outstanding book, readable book. I want to compliment your team, Kiran, represented by Shivani and Teva, Nidhi Das, and the others who are around them. The brave people who retired and came to help you, or just put their love for Puducherry and their job, ahead of politics. I compliment all of them. But most importantly, this is a call to action to the IIMs in particular, which I'm a product of, to come together and say, hey, instead of just grooming people to go make crores and crores of rupees, how are we also going to groom people to serve the public? Much like my school, Yale School of Management, did, public and private management. We focus too much on private enterprise and making the almighty buck. I think we've got to marry with that a real sense of how do we reform government the right way, because people are struggling to live day to day, and it's high time that we did something for the people. And so with that, let me just say, Kiran, my compliments to you for a great book. Thank you, Ankur, for publishing it. Thank you to the whole team around you who supported you. And most importantly, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next year and the year after under the leadership of the IIMs and other management institutions in the country. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for those inspiring words. And I hope whatever, feedback you've given stays with the people and, is implemented. And we really see, things being put into action, as you have said. It's been very inspiring listening to you. Thank you so much. You fulfilled a dream for all of us today being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And I will now be requesting Professor Debashis Chatterjee to share a few words. And ma'am, in case time is a constraint for you, we welcome you to stay on in the program. Is time a constraint for you?
Oh, no, I just want to hear Debashish's comments.
Sure, please stay on, ma'am. We are honored. I now request Professor Debashis Chatterjee to please share his thoughts on
Thank you. Thank you. One iconic woman after another. And how do I sort of find a place here? Kiranji came into national prominence with a book that we all saw while commuting by trains. It was hanging on all bookshops that you could imagine. The book was called I Dare. And it was a lion's cry for fearless governance, and we knew that we are encountering something new in India, because nobody had heard of a woman cop in the first place, and that too writing a book and daring you from bookstores across all stations. So we grew up with the images of a fearless cop, unafraid to take on the establishment. That was the iconic imprint that our initial years with Kiranji has been. Governance has been ruthless, clueless, reckless, hopeless, and sometimes thankless. Anything but fearless. And we have seen, we've grown up with models that sort of put us always on the back foot from the government space. We did a leadership workshop for the Chief Minister of a state and his entire cabinet in IIM campus. Not that we are immune to doing it, but what we heard from the Chief Minister was that, why should we come to IIM unless you help us win the next election? So I said, sorry, I can't help you because I haven't fought an election of the magnitude that you have, but I can tell you why you will not win it. And so he got a little a little scared, and he said, "Why will we not win it?" I said, "All the parameters that we've studied point towards a certain defeat." And he said, "How to win the next election?" I said, I could quote a famous statesperson who said, "You cannot win the next election unless you win the next generation." And a generation is 5 years. And what is a generation? And Kiranji's work will trigger some novel ideas in governance. One generation, one way to see what the generation is all about is the power of one, which she advocates in her book. Now, I heard this idea from the former Prime Minister of Canada, Kim Campbell, who was in my class at the Kennedy School. She was the first woman Prime Minister of Canada, and she had a 16 hours work schedule. And she said, "I derive my energy from people." And her speech always ended with, "Consider yourself hugged." And I was just wondering, why did she say this? He said, "I had a father who never had the time to meet me because my mother and father were divorced, and he would always send me a letter. The last sentence would be, 'Consider yourself hugged.'" And that stayed with me. And so it's part of my refrain in my political speeches. And then I realized that the ultimate source of governance, the energy of the one who governs, lies with that one person who gets touched by what she has done. And that unit of one is a very critical element in understanding what leadership of a large scale is. The larger number of people you touch, you must understand the singularity of the impact. It's not an abstract mass that you're talking to. You're talking to a living, breathing human being. And I have seen in my informal meetings with Kira. In fact, I was witness to what she does in Raj Nivas and what she did going out in the field, meeting people. And you realize that, the fundamentals of governance and leadership, which is encoded in Chanakya's statement that in the happiness of the subjects rests the welfare of the kingdom. But what is a happy subject? A happy subject is somebody who's listened to. Now, I don't think happiness on a subject has to be produced by an immediate solution to the subject. Probably the first act of governance is you listen to people. And this is what most people don't do. And you see a district magistrate, he is meeting for 8 hours to solve the problem of a person who's waiting outside his chamber for whom he has no time to meet. Right? So I am meeting for 8 hours for somebody who I don't get to meet. And what kind of governance model is this? And I think what we saw, the very idea of India, as a political entity, did not exist before 1947. We were run by sovereign kings, and then the sovereignty of the republic took over. But what we see is an idea of India that is getting shaped in a way that is very different from what our poets, what our philosophers, what our great iconic men of letters and women of letters told us. What we are seeing in India, that is being shaped cognitively by a very different model. And please try and understand what I'm trying to hint at. What Facebook was doing by way of a daily update, WhatsApp and Twitter are doing minute-to-minute basis. What are they doing? They are creating a cognitive map of India of the future in a way that we don't recognize, right? So if you India is the number one nation that uses WhatsApp, 500 WhatsApp users. And if they send 1 billion messages, you can imagine that 1 billion messages are shaping what India is talking about within. And you can see this WhatsApp and the Facebooks and all of that, they seem like universal devices. How many WhatsApp messages do you send to people in Australia? You are actually talking to people within your own zone of influence, largely Indians. So what you're doing is you are shaping the identity, and for leaders in governance, and this is what I saw Kiranji do so well, Rajnivas. She was a victim of what you might call fake news, right? And you can see news can be faked, the fake news can be instigated by software, but it is spread by people, by politicians. Software doesn't spread fake news. So creating an unstable contagion of emotion reinforces our human need for connection. You understand that we need to be connected. And I think the only way, governance models can take over where the internet and its assorted devices left us is essentially to take over the power of the social media and create counter conversations, not based on fake news, but a convincing evidence that you care. Before you dare, you create. And you have to recreate yourself. Every day a leader recreates himself or herself in alignment with people. I think an identity of a leader is very different, Indra, from the identity of a manager who has a set goal, a structure. whose creative opportunities are far less than a leader's, because you create your identity in ways that you cannot do in most conventional management roles. And I think the more you take on a leadership role, the more you realize that this nation is grossly underled and, of course, obviously very deeply mismanaged. So Kiranji had to deal with all that by taking over the powers of the social media with a social agenda in Rajnivas with an open door. I was seeing people literally flooding the lawn in Rajnivas. Everybody had open access at 10 o'clock meetings. And so we are talking about in real time, when we are embedded in a massive cognitive system that both act as a background to our daily lives and are replicated and transformed by billions of people by their daily actions, I think the basis of real governance would be one kind action, one deeply touched human. And I think that human has the power to replicate, to multiply kindness. And this is something that we must keep in mind, because we are living in a very world, in the age of globalization, the national communities are marking their boundaries within the messages that get circulated again and again. How do we shape these minds? How is skillful citizenship that is self-organized, coordinated, open and democratic, deliver goods and services with the government? With the government, not the government delivering on their behalf, with the government. And so that ability to connect with people, I saw with my open eyes, and I was in this forest land and she was talking to people, and you should see the convergence, the kind of interest that got. And one great thing Kiranji has taught me as an academic is to record your actions. And if not for yourself, because you can reflect on your actions at sitting at night. Another great woman who actually did that in practice was Mother Teresa in Calcutta. She used to sit every evening when the day was over and should look back on the whole day on reverse video mode to see what I have done, what I should not have done, what I could have done better. So this reflection is a very critical part of leadership. Finally, this is what I want to say is that, governance builds on power of institutions, and sadly, institutions are under great threat today, like never before. Institutions are not frozen structures, but are emergent properties of collective action. So institutions emerge just as leaders create themselves. Those values that keep institutions alive are more critical than institutional structures themselves. These values that we see from the IMK perspective are Satyam, Nityam, and Purnam. Satyam is authenticity, Nityam is sustainability, and Purnam is fulfillment or wholeness. And Gandhi had this notion that if you looked at the power of emotions, and I think very few people have explored Gandhi from the world of emotions. He read the Gita, he read the Bible, he read John Ruskin's Unto This Last. These are his 3 books that constitute his political philosophy. But the important thing he took from the Gita was the power of Pratipaksh Bhavna, power of contrary emotions. And in the Bible, it translates as turning the other cheek. When somebody hits you on one cheek, turn the other one around. Now, this is a very important notion that we missed on when we decoded Gandhi. What he was saying is fundamentally fear is natural to human being. I'm coming to the title of the book now, and I'll finish with it. It is not as though leaders don't have fear. If Kiranji tells me I had no fear, I would not believe it. But I said what I did with my fear, with my acts of courage, what this Pratipaksh Bhavna is also human. A human fears, but human also demonstrates courage on the face of fear. To be able to, as a woman, we can understand what she has gone through, going up this, we can understand from India's history. But what she has done in terms of conquest of that fear, to be able to bring the exact opposite emotion, courage and determination. Converting, as she herself would say, her sideline into mainstream, would be the evidence that the book would present in fearless governance. Fearless governance is not governance without fear. It is governance with fear, governance that teaches you how to conquer it, how to conquer your inhibitions growing up. And this legend of a woman whose name is Kiran Bedi, incidentally, if she could be any other woman in India, getting lost in the whole, but the ability to resurrect from where she is to where she has come, the nature of the journey itself is so inspiring that any book would not be able to do justice to that. But since this book is current and real, I would say that this book is an access, a doorway to a human being whose infinite gifts of compassion, love, caring, determination shows up in ample measure. And please read this to to see what you can take from it and what you can do to transform yourself with it. Well, I will leave that at that. And I think I've spoken. Problem with professors is that they don't know when to stop, but I will. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Debashis, for those very inspiring words. And also a big thank you to Indra Nooyi ma'am. I think she's left. And it's now time to welcome our very own head of our team in Puducherry, Mr. Devaniti Das. And it's an honor for me to be introducing Mr. Devaniti Das because I've always looked up to him and learned from him while I used to go to Rajnivas to do documentation. He's an officer of impeccable integrity who started his career in the Puducherry Civil Service and rose to the IAS service and served as secretary to Lieutenant Governor. And ma'am, was so happy and, she found him to be the most trusted aide and retained him as her officer on special duty. He was the OSD to ma'am till the day she left Puducherry. He was ma'am's most trusted aide. And ma'am used to say he's an institutional memory. Anything we needed to know, we would go to Nitidas sir and he would tell us. He would just rattle it off from his brains, from his memory, and guide us with whatever we needed, whether it was cyclone, COVID, water age. Whenever I was doing any documentation, I would just knock at the door of his office and he would help me. And we fondly called him the Bishop of Rajnivas. I fondly called him the Bishop of Rajnivas because he was always there blessing every program that happened. Whether it was a book release, a celebration, anything, he was there blessing. And he would MC all the events at Rajnivas. And today it's a role reversal. I still remember ma'am's 70th birthday when I released that little booklet. He was introducing me, and today I'm introducing him. It's an honor for us to have you here, Niti sir. And as the most integral part of Team Rajnivas, as ma'am's right-hand officer, as someone who's advised her, gone for a daily evening walk without missing with her, and just guided her throughout her tenure as Lieutenant Governor, I request you to please share a few words with us.
Honorable Dr. Kiran Bedi, Madam, it's a great pleasure to be a part of this program today. I have been privileged to listen to stalwarts, Professor Debashis Chatterjee and also Mrs. Indra Nooyi, Madam. Both are stalwarts of their own kind. I'm very blessed to hear them today. Ma'am, the title of your book, Fearless Governance, made me to think a lot in the past few days. Fear is a kind of an unpleasant feeling triggered by the perception of danger. It may be real or it may be imagined. Every human being is having fear. I can say the elected representatives are the most fearful people in the world. They're the most fearful people because number one, they fear of losing the next election. And some of them of losing their own seats, losing their own majority, of losing their own chair. I have seen in government for the last 35 years, many of the chief ministers, they'll be fearful of losing their own chairs within the period of 5 years because Pondicherry is such a small place. Majority is decided by 1 vote or 2 votes. So chief ministership will change. So they're always fearful people. They're fearful of the next election, not even next election, the present tenure itself. So that makes them to function in a different way. They don't know whether they will continue as a person elected by their own flock, or they may be thrown out in the middle. I have seen chief ministership changing hands. So the most fearful people are the democratically elected governments and the representatives. And coming to the people, in fact, people are also very fearful. In my career, I have seen people are afraid to go inside the government office. It's very difficult to enter into government office. We don't have such a pleasant interaction with a common man. People are afraid to enter into the government service, avail the government service. So I can tell, ma'am, what you have done in Pondicherry is to remove the fear from the mind of the governed. The Rajnivas used to be a place revered, respected, or even feared. It's a seat of power. And I think you changed it as a seat of people, seat for people. You made them to come and occupy the seats there, your own seats. Your own seat you offer to the people. I have seen young children coming and occupying your chair. You triggered their imagination. You removed the fear. You removed the fear. People came thronging with their problems, and they were ready to go and talk to you. In fact, they were so emboldened. I remember they are so emboldened. After some time, they start coming to you. They went straight to the government office and quoted your name. I said, if you don't solve my problem, look, I'm going to Rajinivas. So I will say you have really literally removed the fear from the mind of the people. I will say it's a fearless governed people. You made them the fearless governed people. You have emboldened them. The public grievances, which you opened up after so many years, of course, there should be a method of expecting the grievance. People used to send by post or by email or whatever, and there's a procedure. The Rajnivas used to forward it to the concerned department, concerned minister, and it will take so sweet time, and most of the the grievances will not be addressed. But you gave an opportunity for them to come to you directly, which is unthinkable. So, and Rajnivas, we never had a dull moment. From the morning 6 o'clock onward, we never had the dull moment. I remember the first time we visited the gutters. The first visit you made was to the Grand Canal, which is a gutter. Literally, it was a gutter filled with filth and mosquitoes, and that was your first visit. And I remember you woke up the secretary of the government. You woke him up from his house. You phoned him up and said, I don't want to quote his name. You called him, where are you? He said, ma'am, I'm sleeping. No, please come over here. People are suffering. So, fearless governance, ma'am, I can also say there is a quote in Bible. It says, there is no fear in love. There is no fear in love. A perfect love will drive away the fear. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. I think you really loved the people of Pondicherry, and that's why you didn't have the fear. Even the government officers, many of them are fearful people. It's not real, it's mostly imagined. The fear of transfer, fear of punishment, fear of contempt, fear of privilege notices, fear of disciplinary proceedings. So I think you removed those fears also from the mind of the bureaucracy. You said, no, you do a job, stick to the rules, follow the rules, go extra mile to the people, solve the problem. I'm here to support you. And that has emboldened many officers. I can tell you, I remember one officer who told you that, ma'am, you should have come here along many years back during your formative stages, so we could have done much more. I remember that officer's name. Ma'am, that's why I can say the fearless, it's not only the fearless governor, it is not only Dr. Kiran Bedi who is a fearless governor. You made the fearless people, you made the fearless bureaucrat, and you made some of the politicians also fearless. They also, some of them started taking strong decisions. I remember in the fag end of your career, many of the encroachments have been started cleared. They started clearing the encroachments which were there for years together. That has emboldened some of the, I won't say all the politicians, but some of the politicians felt, yes, it is a right decision. We have to remove them because it creates dengue fever, lot of encroachments on the canals, lot of encroachments on the payments. So you have brought the fearlessness in the minds of many people in Pondicherry. And this document is really a beautiful document. I had occasion to go through this. And as you said, the whole 5 years tenure there, the day one you started with documentation. And that's really a wonderful thing you have done. And this is a good reading material for the management students, and as a reference to many of the other students also. Fearless governance you have brought to Pondicherry. And in her talk, Mrs. Indra Nooyi madam was mentioning that how many of such initiatives are still going on in Pondicherry. Ma'am, as I used to share with you, many of these initiatives, they go along with the leaders. But knowingly, unknowingly, or whether you can accept or not, some changes have been brought in the minds of people, in the minds of people, the governed, also on the offices. That will not change. Maybe your public grievance system, whatever you have initiated, may not be in the same form. But today, people still remember that yes, there is a system, and we have the authority to go and ask the offices to get the grievances resolved. So that changes will not change, and it will continue. And I'm sure, ma'am, whatever contribution you have done to Pondicherry will be remembered by the people for years together. And I still now they are remembering, especially in the time of this COVID, people are comparing about the past and the present. So that comparison will go for years to come. I'm sure about it. And ma'am, I once again congratulate you for bringing this beautiful book to us, and we're all blessed. I'm sure you will continue to render public service in the same manner, fearless manner, and bring fearlessness in the minds of all your own colleagues and others. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful words. And I think you've also doubly blessed us with reading from the Bible. That's why ma'am used to call you the bishop, because you're always blessing us. Thank you so much. And now it's time for what we've all been waiting for, to hear the author speak. The most loved and adored, our very own Dr. Kiran Bedi speak. Before she speaks, I think we have a video clip to show of her oath ceremony and the mantra she gave Puducherry. So can we have that video clip, please, before ma'am speaks?
I,
Kiran Bedi,
do solemnly affirm that
do solemnly affirm that
I will faithfully discharge the functions of the Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territory of Pondicherry
I will faithfully discharge the functions of the Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territory of Puducherry
and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect and defend the Constitution and the law,
and to the best of my ability preserve, protect and defend the Constitution and the law,
and that I will devote myself to the services and well-being of the people of Pondicherry.
and that I will devote myself to the services and well-being of the people of Puducherry. And I shared some of them with the expected leader. The first one being trust. This would mean working with integrity in all forms, financial, administrative and intention. The second mantra, my friends, is empowerment. This means enabling and enhancing optimum utilization of resources while addressing concerns. It also means promoting self-reliance through training, mentoring and more. My third mantra, my friends, and the final mantra is accountability. Not just to the people, but also to yourself. It means implementing and promoting respect for law. Together these mantras form an acronym called T. T for trust, E for empowerment, and A for accountability. So our mantra could be together T, trust, empowerment and accountability.
Ma'am, we're waiting to have a few words from you. We're waiting to hear the author speak.
I'm truly overwhelmed. I cannot thank the Almighty enough for what He or she has brought us to. I think it's a glorious day, one of the most important days of my life. I've been a student of, admirer and student of both Professor Debashis Chatterjee and also great listener of Indra Nooyi. And both, in a way, both of you have been my teachers in many ways. Indra as a remarkable woman leader as a CEO, and Dr. Chatterjee, what he imbibes as a teacher to the students. So I'm thrilled to have my two teachers in two different ways coming together. And how interestingly, Professor Chatterjee stepped in because I was looking, he's a worksmith, and I was searching for a word for my book. How interestingly. And that's why I got him committed to say, when I release the book, Dr. Chatterjee, you got to be there. And Indra Nooyi, I want to thank Shivani the most for having brought her in, because I'm totally inspired by the way she's led her professional life in a foreign land, an immigrant, a foreign land, a woman. And I know I've worked at the United Nations, how tough it is to be working in the Western world as an Indian, a woman of color, and an immigrant, and then working her way through. So I cannot thank you both enough. Now, thank you, Shivani, for running the clip of my oath ceremony. Niti and I remember, Niti remembers, when we were at the oath ceremony, there was a discussion. Do I take the oath and go? Or do I say something on this day? And I know Niti and I had a discussion. And I said, Niti, I'm opening my account as a leader. And when I open my account as a leader, people of Puducherry and the public officials of Puducherry must know what am I going to stand for? What am I here for? What will I mean as I work? I want to declare. I want to burn my boats. I want to declare. Now, the first important thing which I was very keen that I declare, what am I here for? That's the first quality. Now, I took the oath. I'm bound by that oath. But what am I declaring at the oath? It's not just the oath and go. No, I want to tell them. So Niti said, and the team was of the view that no, ma'am, no speech is made on that day. It's you take the oath and go. I said, no. That was my first defiance to my team, saying, no, I shall declare what am I going to stand for. Niti, you remember? Now, see, that's evidence again. So I organized my thinking. Prior to that, Dr. Chatterjee, I think there's a chapter of the SWOT analysis in the book. Prior to that, I did a SWOT analysis with all my public officials. The secretaries, the chief secretary, Niti was a part of the team, all of us. I did a SWOT. I wanted to know, who am I working with? What were the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as they saw? And they were very kind. They wrote that in their own handwriting, which are preserved, and a clip of that is in the part of the chapter of the book. Chief Secretary, Niti, everybody wrote. And what did I see? What did I see? Because before I am speaking, I want to know, who am I going to work with? I didn't know any one of them. I did not know any one of them in the government official. I traveled all the way from north to south. I didn't know the language, as Shivani says, and I did not know anybody. I only had one friend with me, Dr. Amrita Bell, who traveled with me as a prospective officer on special duty. So she was the only North Indian friend I had who I could chat with in Hindi and Punjabi the way I wanted. But I had nobody else who I could talk in my own language. So I did a SWOT. When I did a SWOT, it's very, very important for any leader that you go first, find out who are you going to work with. What are their minds? What are their attitudes? What are their priorities? What are their challenges? What are their strengths and weaknesses? So when I got the SWOT before, and I had it in writing, I then, Amrita Behel, my friend, collected them, diligently analyzed for me, and we found all this missing. I found it missing right away, and I realized what am I going to deal with? They did not have a mission statement. They did not have a common mission statement. They all were accusing each other. Their weaknesses were that we are a disjointed system. We are a suspicious system. But they also said we are an educated class. We have a lot of educated people, but they're all separated, segregated, fearing and threatened. And I, God, what do I do? What do I declare? How am I going to? I was afraid. You're right, Niti. I was afraid of failure. You think I was not afraid? I was afraid. The Prime Minister said when he appointed me, he sent me to say, Kiranji, wahan jaakar paise ka dhyan rakhna. That's the opening chapter of the book. In English, it meant, Kiran, go and take care of the money there, which meant that he knew what was happening in Puducherry. He's sending me into the fire. He's sending me into a quandrum of dishonesty and dishonesty and falsehood. पैसे का ध्यान रखना. My God, I began with this feeling, what पैसे का ध्यान? कैसे पैसे का ध्यान? So when he said that, and I saw the SWOT, and I saw the whole accusatorial and leaderless, no united, no mission, no common ground, nothing. I formed my views, and I gave a tea mantra, and that is when this tea mantra did come out of the blue. But prior to the tea mantra, Niti would remember, Amrita Behel and I, on the Indigo flight, we flew economy. We flew economy. I refused to fly business class throughout my LG's career. Throughout. Didn't even once take the business class. And she and I, on the flight, drew a mission statement for Puducherry. What could be the mission statement? But prior to that, again, for 1 week, which the Prime Minister gave me to join, I started to work with a officer called A.K. Singh to come and educate me about what is Pondicherry. What he said was almost coordinating with what's happening with the mills, how the people are being paid for no work, how many years it's been all shut down, and nobody has the courage, political courage, to take any decisions. As Niti very rightly said, every vote mattered. So nobody, that means crores of rupees were going into unproductive work just because the labor could not be laid off to say, thank you, we shut down. Committee after committee was suggesting, shut down these mills. They're not functioning at all. Do something else with it. But they were not letting the labor go. And the labor was very happy because they were all of them employed elsewhere. They had a great pension, but whose money was being sent? So when I saw all this was being prior briefed to me. There's a chapter in the book called I Started to Learn Very Early. And that's when I worked with my colleague, A.K. Singh, who was a resident commissioner in Puducherry. Here, I told him, come and tell me what's happening. So he'd start to tell, madam, ye bhi problem. I said, my God, मैं जा कहाँ रही हूँ? मैं जा कहाँ रही हूँ? और मैं जा क्यों रही हूँ? Because when I told the Prime Minister, sir, I have a few views, I have a few travels pending still, sir, before I take over. He said, no travels, go immediately. I had some very interesting invitations overseas. My tickets were booked because I was a free citizen. But he said, no time. Ab travel baad mein karenge. And sure enough, during all my tenure, if I got an invitation from overseas, he did not allow any travel. He wanted us to stay and put right digging our heels throughout. So with this prior understanding, knowing, confirming, and then doing a SWOT, which was independent, which was objective. And I still have the paper. So when I came up across the tea mantra, it was saying, God's case, trust each other. I shall trust you. It was a mantra. What am I going to do with you? I will trust you till you belie the trust. I will trust you till you break my trust. So whatever's been your past, it doesn't matter to me. I trust you. You're worthy for me. I don't know you earlier, doesn't matter. I don't know your language, doesn't matter. But I trust you because I know you are appointed. Now, I'm not talking about only politicians. I'm talking also the public servants. While you have all talked about the political leadership, I'm now shifting the focus a little more on the public services who are appointed by merit, who qualified, and who value this service, who need the service, and who are very secure. What are they afraid of? They've got the job for the next 35 years, 30 years, and they have a pension all their life. What are they to be afraid of? Why should they be afraid of? That's my anger. I can understand the politician being afraid of losing his seat. Why should a public servant who's got 35 years, 30 years, pension taken care of, medical taken care of, house taken care of, transport taken care of, to be afraid? Why? So it was the focus now was public servant. So I was telling the public servant, I had no control over I knew public political appointees would have their own issues, and I have no control over them. It's the people who elect them, people who enjoy and suffer them. That's between the voter and them. But what about the civil servant, of which I was? I was an appointed officer, a person who knew if I would perform, I can perform. What is my fear? My fear is transfer. My fear is transfer. My fear is harassment. They'll harass me with show cause no. As Niti very rightly said, privilege notice. Many of our very good, credible officers were harassed with privileges notices by the certain minister just because they took a stand. And I used to tell that officer, what are you afraid of? But the point is, he was harassed. He had to hire a lawyer. He had to spend money out of his own pocket to hire a lawyer. Why should he? He doesn't have that much money. But he was afraid. So he was afraid of a privilege notice. He was afraid of a department inquiry because that will hit his career. So he was afraid. So I was now hitting it, telling them, friends, I'm trusting you. And I'm with you. And I had the powers as a lawyer, as a lieutenant governor. The powers of the lieutenant governor very clear. In fact, when I went there, people did not know the real powers of the lieutenant governor. If you read that chapter on the lieutenant governor by the law secretary, you are very clear. Financial powers stop at the lieutenant governor. Service powers stop at the lieutenant governor. Contractual powers stop at the lieutenant governor. Final disciplinary stop at the lieutenant governor. So when your finance is there, your service matter is there, policy approval to be notified prior has to be approved by the lieutenant governor. What else? Lieutenant governor is the executive and the politician is the political head. But the lieutenant governor has the final say. So when I said trust, I said, I trust you. I do not know whether you've been not trustworthy. I don't know. Number two, I said, empowerment. I'm going to empower you because when you trust a person, you empower a person. So I'm going to empower you. You have your charter, you have your responsibilities, you have your performance. Go ahead. I am with you. Trust me, I'm with you as long as you perform. But if you don't perform, I will make you perform because I'm not here to fail. Either you perform or I'll make you perform. But you shall not fail because if you fail, we all fail. And we'll not fail the people. We are here for people through this position. So the third was accountability, which I also used to twist it with alignment, where we'll all work together and we'll be accountable for all our deeds, actions. So accountable means I'm first accountable for all that I do. I'll be accountable. Whatever decision I take, Nidhi and I used to, the team Rajnivas was brilliant. And there's a whole beautiful chapter on team Rajnivas. Who were the key people? There was Sridhar, there was Bhaskar, there was Srinivas, there was our PRO, Asha Gupta and PRO Kumran. They're brilliant people, very nice people. They were nice, but they were all lying dormant, my friend. They were lying undervalued, under-realized, poor potential, but just lying around, doing very little. Why? Why should they have been allowed to be wasted? Are they not being paid full salaries? So trust, empowerment, and alignment or accountability. And Lieutenant Governor's office was the primary. All decisions, believe me, Dr. Chatterjee, I think the chapter would read it and my readers, listeners would know every decision that we took has been challenged in the court of law almost. And I think what we have achieved as a legacy is those decisions we took, which they challenged, they were, by the way, Government of India decisions. They were coming from Government of India. They were coming by orders. And yet the state government of the day was challenging them for nothing but fake news, by misinforming people. We had the power to say, enough. This is the Government of India. This is the law. This is the rule. This is what we do. Like, for instance, I'll give you an answer. DBT, direct bank transfer. The Government of India was very clear. All this money which is going has to be transferred directly to the bank accounts. The political executive wanted contracts. They wanted contracts. And they wanted inflated contracts. And why they wanted contracts? It's explained in the book. Right? Why? When DBT can be done with the money, there's no leakage on the way. Why are you coming in between? Why don't the people can buy their own rice at the time they want? At the time they want, at the quantity they want? Why do you want to get a contractor from outside Pondicherry to sell you rice at an inflated price, which may be poor quality? Isn't Pondicherry a market? Isn't Pondicherry market not having rice shops? Why can't you buy rice from there? Why can't people get money to buy rice? No, we want contract. There was a huge, why? Because they wanted contractors. Market people were, but nobody had a voice. Unless we, as a lieutenant governor, put our foot down. I had 2 chief secretaries during my time. One chief secretary, if he had been not the way he was, we would have turned Puducherry around in 3 months' time, 6 months' time. That first chief secretary was aligned with the political powers that be. He was political. That is my problem. What was he afraid of? What was he afraid of? He's an IS officer. He will go from one secretary should be other. What are you afraid of, Mr. So and so? I've not even mentioned his name. There's a whole chapter on him. He harassed me. He was the cause of a lot of grief and agony. Why should they be? Why should a public servant? And I told him, come along with me for the morning rounds. Let's do the rounds together. Instead, he started to tell the juniors, don't accompany madam to the morning round. Don't go with her. So other office, and they did not. I was working sometimes on the weekend round with the junior engineer. Just a junior engineer. But he knew the job. I got it done. I didn't wait for them. The chief secretary of that time ensured a rift between me and the political executive. Had he been maturer, he could have actually brought harmony. He actually caused the rift. He wanted whatever his gains, because I want to know, you all know, the performance appraisal of the chief secretary is written by the chief minister. And as a lieutenant governor, I'm only the next accepting or upgrade or reject, accept, whatever. But I was the reviewing, right? Niti? I was the reviewing authority. So he wanted full marks, 10 out of 10 from the chief minister. So he sacrificed me. And he said, what will madam do? Madam may downgrade. He'll go up somewhere up at the government of India and get it done. So ignore the lieutenant governor, be on the side of performance appraisal, to hell with the lieutenant governor. He did not know that here was a person who will get him out too. So I requested the prime minister. I said, sir, prime minister, sir, you sent me here. I'm fulfilling the goals of my work. Either you have him or you me. Please make a choice. I did this within the year. Because that means basically I was not hanging on to my job. I didn't want to hang on to my job. I requested the prime minister's office, either you choose him or choose me. But I'm willing to come. But I'm here to perform. People are expecting clean Puducherry. They're looking a safe Puducherry. They're looking for a water-rich Puducherry. They're looking for a green Puducherry. They want a financial prudence here. They don't want any vestige here. How do I do it? So he was moved out after a loss of more than a year. Then came a new chief secretary. One man made the difference, Mr. Ashwini Kumar. He came and it made the difference. There's a whole another chapter on the book about him. What a difference. Officers are the same. Two officers, same service. One sabotages the position, sabotages the public contract, makes the whole system foul. He fouls the system, breaks the system, disrupts the system. The other person unites it, let it facilitate, let it happen, let the right thing happen. Why not? So I am on fearless governance concerning civil servants. I'm saying, what is the problem with millions of people in public service in India? Why should they not be fearless and I ask them, when they go for the interview for the IAS or the IPS, they answer to every question which the UPSC asks. What if this happens to you? You are given this direction. What would you do? And these people say, sir, we will tell them, this is the law, sir. This is the rule, sir. We have to be bound by the rules, sir. We're bound by the law. Justice must prevail, sir. I said, very good. That's what you got the marks in the interview, and you qualified for the IAS, the IPS, and the civil services. So why are you forgetting now? Why are you forgetting now? Why can't you just go back to say, sir, this is all I can do. This is the right thing to do. However, if you disagree with me with great respect, here is my note. You can overrule my note. They won't even write the note. They won't even write the note. They would just forward it and then get a destruction. They will get an order and implement the order and saying this is his order. Why? Why are you not fearless? This is my question to the civil servants of this country. I can understand the politician being scared to lose his seat, but I cannot understand. Why must I understand? Why must we reconcile with the civil servant to be afraid of the master, political master? It is his duty or her duty to record rightly, share rightly, and then get overruled. All right? Get overruled. Then you have to accept whether you want to implement the overruling or you want to make an exit. If you make an exit, what will happen? You're going to study leave. You're going to leave without pay. You can go back under transfer. So many things can happen. I know everybody. Children lose schooling. Children lose schooling. You may lose a house. All those privileges come with that. This is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of losing a promotion. They're afraid of losing their privileges. They're afraid of losing a house. They're afraid of school children losing a home. That is the, so I want that fearlessness. I'm pleading through this government for my young coming generations. It's a plea, it's a prayer to the, if India has to recover, politicians will mature up with maturing of the democracy. Political life will mature up with the maturing of political, that's it. We know what's happening around even now. You and I have very little control. You're only one voter. There are no town halls. I wanted the MLAs to be evaluated. There were no town halls. They were not having town. They were only one-sided. No town halls. Why can't you have an MLA be evaluated and now town hall? So here it is, what I would say. That while the political class, the government, people of India will have to decide who they vote for. A person with criminal antecedents, with bad integrity, known what it is, or with performance, does he educate, does he have policy? But the millions of public servants who are paid by the public exchequer to serve the people selflessly, honestly, why should they commit a breach of trust? That's to me the biggest criminal breach of trust. So this book, in the end, concludes by saying, what is that new generation? I'm looking for a new officer, a new government servant, a new young IS, IPS, IRS, customs, whatever. New. They must live up to what made them qualify when they said it in the interview. So I want them to be fearless governance. So this fearless governance is focusing more on the public servant whom I know. Political man, I don't know. And I know the political man is very insecure. I cannot infuse security into them. But we can infuse fearlessness in the public servant, and they are considered the qualified, meritorious elite of the country. And they are all coming from good backgrounds. They're coming from good schooling. Otherwise, they won't make it to the UPSC. So, my friends, this is what this authorship book is about. It's an outcry. It's an outcry. I've seen in my 35 years of service, I've seen police leadership. I've seen my own bosses. I saw my own department. And I have seen this for the first time. I saw administration. I want to thank my Honorable Prime Minister most of all, that he gave me this opportunity. And he entrusted me with saying, and he trusted me by saying, Kiran ji, wahan jakar paise ka dhyan rakhna. That means he trusted me. He trusted the fact that I will ensure financial prudence. And I did. In fact, that was also challenged hugely by the political executive at that time. Hugely. Court supported us. Court supported and upheld the financial powers of the Lieutenant Governor. And we saved so much of money wastage during that time. So much. So this is what it is about. That I want to thank him. That he gave me this, by the way, the only job in my career, in my entire career, where I was invited to say, would you like to take it? I had no posting in the past where I was ever told, would you like to do it? I was told, go to IG jail, go to traffic, and I said, traffic, I don't know. Go to Goa. I said, my daughter is very ill. I cannot go. Go to Goa. Traffic, I do not know. No to do traffic. What I did about it, it was entirely my purpose. Was my challenge. Because I didn't want to fail anywhere. Why? It's not a personal failure. I didn't want to fail my responsibility. Every time I was given a responsibility, I wanted to live up to that responsibility. That was my character. That was my upbringing. And that's what has been said in the author speak page of this. Where did I come from? And the credit for my conviction, my fearlessness goes back to my upbringing, my education, my schooling, my value systems, my simple living, my learnings as I acquired. I owe it to my mother and I owe it to my father. That is why the book is dedicated both to my mother and the father. And it is dedicated to Sri Aurobindo and the mother, because I think they called me. I know they called me. It's written in the chapter. And it's also dedicated to people of Puducherry, because they loved me and I loved them. They didn't know my language, I didn't know theirs, but they loved me. I hugged them. All the shawls, or hundreds of shawls, all went to Swachhta workers. All of them. I loved them, they loved me. So this is where I owe it to them. And the royalties of the book, it's not been written for gain. It's been dedicated to my two foundations, whom are part of my family. The Navjyoti India Foundation, which is more than 30 years old, and the India Vision Foundation is more than 25 years old. And there's another wonderful baby which is coming up. It's called demonstrative learning. I have three major babies. One is an adult, one is growing up, the other. All three are my organized. All this is dedicated to causes of Puducherry. So if you buy more, I get more, and we give more. So we have, you buy more, we have more. We can go to causes in Puducherry. We can go to causes in Navjyoti India Foundation. We can go to causes India Vision Foundation and support demonstrative learning, of which Shivani is a very integral part. So friends, this is what this author speak is. If I've said more, if I've hurt anybody's sentiment, but all that I've said is proven beyond doubt in the book. It's available on Kindle and it's on QR code. You want to see a document, you want to see a visual snippet, where you can click the QR code on the book and you can go to Kindle. So it's a website. The website has been made by very good friends of mine, Shivri and Abhilash. They all done pro bono work. All this support system, Debashis, has come pro bono. Pro bono. Can you believe it? It's all pro bono. Friends have come together pro bono. I want to thank most of all my publisher, Ankur Verma, the Diamond Books. They're my old friends. His father, Mr. Narendra Verma, is brilliant. He's a giver. And he did exactly what I needed. We supported each other as publisher and as an author. We were a wonderful team. And that's why this book has come out so neatly. And there are many others. I think my daughter will now say, recognize all those people I'm owe this book to. Thank you so much, Shivani. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your inspiring words and taking us through the journey of this book of fearless governance, which I know it was truly fearless governance. And as Niti sir said, you also made the governed people fearless. And which it was wonderful to have witnessed your work in Puducherry, which I never got to see otherwise. You never get to see a governor's office or, government functioning. And you allowed me to see it so closely that, it was a huge learning experience for me. So we're coming to the end of this program, and I just want to tell our viewers the book is available on Amazon, Flipkart, on the Diamond website, and it's also on Kindle, so you can pick up your copies. And as ma'am said, the royalties are dedicated to the foundations and to causes in Puducherry. So open your hearts and pick up the book. There's lots to learn from the book. I now invite Mrs. Saina Rusbe Bharucha, Vice President of Jyoti India Foundation, Permanent Trustee, India Vision Foundation, Chief Executive Demonstrative Learning, and most importantly, ma'am's daughter, to recognize the people behind this book.
Jai Dhari Ma. Today's evening is all about grace and grit. Mummy's journey is all about grace and grit. Sir, Debashis sir, pranam to you. Pranam to you, sir. Niti sir, very good evening to you. Ankurji, thank you. Gratitude. Shivani, lots of love. I cannot start expressing gratitude without doing Namo to Ma Bhumi of Puducherry, to the land of Puducherry, for giving my mother an opportunity to serve her. It's Ma Bhumi of Puducherry with Harima's Kripa who called her. And she served her, and you did her proud. And the love that you are going to carry with you is for eternity, and that's what matters. And we'll all do our bit to carry your work forward. Because I truly believe doing the right thing has to be a great need in you. Till it's not a need in you to do the right thing, it doesn't happen. I'm here to express gratitude to some wonderful people who've been a part of the book journey. I'll read out the names one by one and share my thoughts along the way. Mrs. Indra Nooyi, true leaders empower. They empower. And she is empowering all the time. She's not retired. Mommy is not retired. Debashis sir will not retire. Neeti sir will not retire because you're all the time empowering all those you meet. And that's what true leaders do. So a big heartfelt gratitude to Mrs. Indra Nooyi for coming and sharing her heart with all of us and saying such wonderful words about the book and reading it with such intensity. And her team, Simi Shah and Brenda Magnota. Sir, gratitude to Professor Debashis Chatterjee and his team from IIM, Kozhikode. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your very, very kind words and inspiring all of us and the youth and your young students who watched you. Sir, Neeti Das, sir, gratitude to you for being there and for joining us today and sharing Mummy's journey. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being there. And thank you for your prayers. Thank you for a very big message about the power of prayer. It's the power of prayer with power of righteousness, with power of hard work that makes you fearless. Thank you, sir. Our diamond publishers, Ankur Verma, Chandni Jangir. Now, please print it with all your heart and take it forward. Thank you for putting in all your love, and thank you to your father for setting up Diamond Publishing House, and you're carrying it forward now. Thank you. Thank you to your entire family. क्योंकि कोई अकेले नहीं करता है काम. This is always good work. Blessed work always happens as collective effort. So आपके परिवार को बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. हमारी बुक टीम को शुक्रिया. आदित्य मेहरोत्रा, पूजा लाल, रिंकी सिंह, शिवानी अरोरा, Sumit Shukla. A very special gratitude to all public officials of Puducherry government. Asha Gupta, people of Puducherry, this evening belongs to you. This evening is yours. It's all yours. Interns at Raj Nivas, they are the future, our youth. Riya Raghunathan, Manik Nandan, Vijayanand, Punguruli, Monica Dhawan from India Vision Foundation. She's the director of India Vision Foundation. Preeti Talukdar. The entire household staff of Raj Nivas, Puducherry and Delhi. आप सबको बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया because you make our day and life so comfortable. आप सबको बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया for giving us that comfort. Our team of India Vision Foundation, our team of Navjyoti India Foundation, a team of demonstrative learning, In Time Reprographics, Instinct School and Studio of Design, Team Squarical, Mr. Achal Paul, Shakira Scott, Sujata Bhuyan, and from the family, my mother's younger sister, Anup Shabria, for giving the name of the book. Gratitude to her. A very special thank you to Mataji, Divyananda, for sending such a lovely, blessed video and blessing the program and the book and the event through her prayers. Thank you to all the children joining Thank you to all the children who've joined us. And I like a little army behind Mom. To all the children who've joined us and watching the program and getting inspired. Thank you to all our audiences who have joined us and who've been with us. हम आप सबकी तंदुरुस्ती के लिए दुआ करते हैं. ये एक छोटा सा ग्रैटिट्यूड था, क्योंकि शब्दों में ग्रैटिट्यूड हम पूरा नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन दुआओं में कर सकते हैं. हम आप सबके लिए दुआ करते हैं और आप ऐसे ही जुड़े रहें और हम कलेक्टिवली आगे बढ़ते जाएं. Mommy, the journey continues.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivani. Thank you. Thank you, Shivani. Thank you. Thank you.
The journey continues with some incredible life lessons. So we'll meet all of you very soon. The journey continues with some incredible life lessons. Jai Dhari Ma to all of you.
Thank you.
We see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivani.
Thank you, ma'am, for this opportunity and for making me part of your book, The Fearless Governance, and part of your journey in Puducherry and continuing now with demonstrators. Thank you. It's a learning with you every single day. I'm absolutely grateful to you. Thank you to all our audience for joining us. And please do buy the book and read it. You'll be supporting causes and you will learn a lot of lessons. Thank you.
Jai Dhari Ma. Jai Dhari Ma.
Bless you. Thank you. Bless all and thank everybody who came in. Bye-bye. Thank you and bye-bye. Thank you.